Okay, in this portion, we're going to be talking about our subtraction strategies. There's only 2 for subtraction, just because that one's a little bit trickier to do since it relies on a lot of mental math. Most children need to see it worked out in front of them, which is where base 10 comes from having to draw it out and seeing where all of your numbers are going. Standard model requires a little more of mentally picturing that it's not there anymore. But otherwise, they're both mostly the same. For a standard model, you can't subtract 8 from 6. They know that the bigger number can't be subtracted from a little number. So they're going to need to take away from the next number. That becomes a 6. This becomes 16. They would know 16 minus 8 is 8. Some of them might still use their fingers. That's okay. Whatever helps them to be able to know the counting backwards is always going to be encouraged. 6 minus 3 is 3. 6 minus 4 is 2. Our next method is also the same, only this time you're just drawing out the number that you're starting with. So you would be drawing out 676. You are taking away 438. So I need to draw out my 600s. Remember, these are going to be bigger squares. I'm going to draw out my 7 tens, and then I'm going to draw out my 6 ones. Ones are always drawn as circles so you can differentiate the two, because otherwise you would draw them as squares, and then they might get a little bit confused. That's why the size is important. You would then have to go through and cross out 438. Now, the same issue where we only have 6 ones is here, so we're going to have to take away from one of our tens. They need to mark down when they are regrouping and taking away a 10 using base 10 model with a squiggle so that they know that it's just coming over here. A lot of them will forget that that's not a subtracted one, that it's still over here. So then when they're doing their final answer, it causes them to mess up somewhere along the way. Then you can subtract like normal. So you would cross out your 8, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, and you would count how many you have left over, which is 8. You then go through, you so cross out your 3s, and then you end up with 3. This is why it's important not to just cross this one out, because then they're going to be like, wait, I subtracted 4. No, when you have the squiggle, you regrouped 1, it came over here, and you crossed out 3, which tells you subtracted 3. Then you have your 600s, you cross out 4 of those, you end up with 2, so your answer is 238. Like I said, this is just them being able to see it and see exactly what they're subtracting and what they're starting with. A lot of times I've seen too with standard model, they will write it and they won't line up their numbers. So they would write something like, you can't subtract that because then what number is here? There's nothing there. They end up messing that up. They end up getting the numbers wrong, and it's just a whole very confusing mess for them. So it's very important that if you are using standard model at home, make sure that they have their ones lined up where they're supposed to, their tens lined up on top of each other, and their hundreds lined up on top of each other. If they're subtracting or adding a 3-digit number and 2-digit number, they need to know if there's not something in that hundreds place, you don't just put the numbers there. That's most of what I've seen that will trip them up. So I hope that for the most part this helped a little bit more.